Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 59 of the Hideout. We're going to be talking about Web3 and gaming in the Metaverse. And we have an awesome panel here today. We've got two of our speakers, and we may have one more joining us. So, like usual, we are going to start off with some introductions, and then we will get into the panel of questions. The space is being recorded, and I know a lot of people check out the space in the recorded version as well, but we will have a giveaway for those of you who stick around to the end. So thank you for being here live. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am the CEO and one of the founders of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legions 2029 game. For those of you who have been paying attention, you'll have seen that last week we released our mainnet alpha. So the game is live. It is free to play. This is I'm pinning to the top of the space because I think the thread is much more informative than I can be in this short time. But for those of you who don't know about Legions 2029 or the Satoshiverse, Legions 2029 is a very fast-paced action RPG roguelike. So we're taking inspiration from games like God of War for our combat system, and then combining progression elements from games like Diablo and World of Warcraft with all of that, in a setting of a roguelike like Hades. So it's a really unique take on a blockchain-enabled game experience. Like I said, it's free to play. We just released it. It's a PC game, so you will need a PC to play it. But other than that, you just go to game.legions2029.com, create an account, and you'll be able to play the game for free. We've got basically for the next couple months, you'll be able to create your own avatar. We have a custom avatar creator featuring emblems from some of our partners. And with that, you'll be able to create that avatar and then mint it as an NFT for free. That'll be airdropped to you. So a really cool chance to get a free NFT that works as an avatar within our game, and hopefully in the future outside of our game. And then, we're going to have some awesome tournaments, some speedrun tournaments these next couple months. So definitely check out the post for all the information. But with no further ado, let's move to our awesome panel of speakers, starting with our friends at Mega Weapon. Could you give us an introduction of what you guys are building and tell us about yourself?
Hey, thanks for having us. This is Matt at the Mega Weapon team. I am the operations director here for the Mega Weapon project and the team behind the game. Mega Weapon is a live-action, top-down shooter that's supposed to be fast-paced, lots of fun, and uses in sort of like an arcade-style twin-stick shooter for PC, desktop, and Mac. And we integrate Web3 into our game by enabling players to compete in risk-based matches. Basically, you pay an entry fee to have a chance to win the pot. And we are actually literally in the middle of testing it right now with the whole team. So I'm doing two things at once, but it's really exciting. So thanks for having us.
Amazing to have you here. And I should mention that if you have anything you want to pin up to the top of the spaces, please feel free so that people can see videos or gameplay or whatever that might be. Feel free to use that space. Now let's go over to Dance Fight. Who do we got over there?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Awesome.
This is Zach. How's it going?
Yeah, this is Zach over at Dance Fight. I'm a partner at Dance Fight. A little bit about myself. I'm really excited to speak on these topics. So thank you for having me. I've been a game dev since 2005, so 19 years coming up. I've done like AAA, even Facebook games, a lot of mobile, worked with a bunch of big companies, and then I moved into Web3 about 3 years ago. And at the same time, a little bit longer than that, I've been an active street dancer. So, I met the guys over at Dance Fight, and I was chief creative officer over at Pixelinks. If you guys don't know them, pretty cool interactive AI NFTs for making music. Super cool. But I met the Dance Fight guys, and street dance is very close to my heart. So when I heard there was an app about this, I was like, let me see this shit, man. Like, who do these guys think they are? Then I met them, and they were just amazing dudes, and really embracing the culture, and they really come correct with everything. And then months later, I actually joined them. So Dance Fight is right now it is a mobile app, and I would say that it facilitates an already gamified culture of street dance, as in battling, and then of course moving into Web3 with our first steps through the sandbox. And I think we're gonna get a little bit into that a little bit later. But a little fun fact: you mentioned God of War and the combat system. I was actually mentored by Derek Daniels. He did the first 3 God of Wars, the combat system. I don't know if you're referring to the new one or the old one, but it was really cool. I got to meet a legend. He taught me how they built out the combos and the enemy logic and all that stuff. So it was really fun, and I really love what you guys are doing. I've been digging into it and excited to play your game.
Amazing. Well, we're excited to have you here, and Pixelinks is another one of our partners, and so we're big fans of them too, and might have something coming up with them actually on
Oh,
the
all right.
music side. So
Awesome.
really cool that you were over there. Definitely, they're doing some really cool stuff, and I've been watching what you guys are doing, and it's super cool. I can't wait to maybe one day have some of those moves inside of Legions 2029. I think that would be really cool if you could do some sort of dance move, when you kill someone or to kill someone. I think it would be pretty cool. So excited to get that and jump in. Why don't we go over to Spencer to give us a quick introduction and then kick us
Hey,
off?
what's going on, guys? My name is Spencer Vogel. I'm the business development manager for Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment. I've been working with the team for the last 2.5, 3 years or so. So getting into the format for the space today. So we're going to start out with a question for everyone. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump in from there. And then we'll move into some individual questions for everyone here, and then we'll move back into some questions for the group at the end if we have time. And then, as Nick said in the beginning, we're going to be doing a giveaway here for one of our live listeners. So make sure you stick around until the end of the space for a chance to win a Satoshiverse collectible. Um, awesome. So let's get started here. And then maybe, Zach, you could start us off on this one. So, what do you think are the key benefits of integrating Web3 technology into gaming economies?
So I love this question, and I love where things are going because I've been a gamer my whole life, and if you look at things like what has happened with, say, Diablo for a very long time, where people build up accounts and then they were selling them and all this stuff, and you have pretty much like a black market or gray market or whatever you want to call it, and there's third party websites that are supporting that, and there's just an entire subgenre of or even sub dev of that happening. I think actually a better example is Star Citizen. I don't know if you guys follow this, but these guys are doing NFTs before there was NFTs, and Star Citizen, they're good at making scarcity with things that actually aren't tokens at this point. And they also have a side economy of a black market and a gray market. So if you guys don't know Star Citizen, it all centers around chips and their different utility. But people can sell them off to each other, and you can gift them and all this stuff. And then there's also what they call a black market, where you can sell your accounts. Now, with all that said, what I like about blockchain technology with all of this is that there's a persistence to assets now, and an inherent ownership and scarcity. So these things I'm talking about this economy that's outside of the game, which is usually supported by third party stuff, is already on board, and I think it almost starts with that. If you if you look at what's going on, so I love that users and players will be able to own something and bring it along with them. And I think really the for me the measure of a good game is its longevity, right? I really don't think it's how much money it makes. And fun, of course, but the thing that trumps all of it is like how long does this game last? Like people are still playing StarCraft, like the first one, and that's a great thing, but its technology stops at some point. So to be able to take that into like a persistent nature where you can keep developing a game, but then you can still hold those assets and they're not like lost with a server or anything like that. I think that's huge for gaming. I think it is necessary, and this is the room we're in. And then I think the next step is that we just need people to onboard because, quite honestly, I think we all know people are scared of it, especially people in the game dev space. People don't want to touch this area, but the more mainstream things get, I think people will see how powerful it is.
Yeah. Nick or Matt, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. Um, so for us, for me and for our team, I would say blockchain and Web3, whatever you want to call it, the greatest benefit in our category in terms of competition and things like that is that it enables sort of a generic phrase here, but a cross-border economy at like very high speeds, right? It eliminates a lot of friction between people that want to just play games against each other, that want to interact economically, that want to, basically trade um, across, all around the world at high speed in a trustless system, right? And we recognize that Web3 it enables that, and when you're on a network like Avalanche or something like that, you can do it at a low cost as well. So to us, it was a no-brainer if we wanted to get our game, our competitive version of our game, into people's hands around the world without having to go through tons of different monetary systems and things like that, and exchange systems where people can just play against each other. Don't even need to speak the same language, just need to be on the same network, and you're good to go. So for us, that was the key feature, that we feel like Web3 was built for this exact type of experience.
Yeah, I think those are, both good points. And for me, it really depends on the game, right? I think we see um, billions of dollars spent yearly on various different in-game items, through all the different types of games that really, as Zach was saying at Dance Fight, really don't persist, right? You see, for example, the model that FIFA uses with Ultimate Team, for example, and I think there's an opportunity if FIFA wanted to, or if EA wanted um, to to create a system where there could be some persistence from year to year, from game to game, of these players, where a single asset could grow with the game. Now, of course, that would totally disrupt their system, and there's a reason that we haven't seen things like that happen. But I think coming from the perspective of a developer building a Web3 game, one of the things that we need to do, is think about, okay, what is our game and how does Web3 amplify it? So it could be kind of what Mega Weapon, is doing, in the sense that this is a method of kind of standardizing monetary transactions within a game, or it could be something where you own things and transfer things that people want, but they're simply aesthetic and they don't, contribute to the gameplay at all. I think once you go beyond that, you really have to start thinking about the potential for new systems, right? Thinking about how does the ability to purchase something in a game that increases your ability to play the game, right? Gives you a new ability or makes you stronger or what have you. How do you balance that against some of the kind of metas that surround pay to win and some of the themes that we've seen games like Diablo, for example, move far away from? Because, and I think this is what scares game devs, is that, they've had bad experiences in the past when they do things like the real money auction house in Diablo 3, or some other games where you have, massive gaming farms, farming out all the items and selling them super cheap. I think you end up losing a certain sense of what makes some of those games great. And so, I've always been one to say it's very, very hard to take Web3 and just make a game that's a Web2 game, a Web3 game. Like the games that instantly come to mind that have great player economies like RuneScape and Diablo and World of Warcraft, those games probably wouldn't work as Web3 games without major design changes. And we've seen that. We saw what happened to Diablo 3 and how the real money auction house affected people's perception of the game. And so for us, starting to rethink what kinds of models can support NFTs and this kind of permanence of them, and making game items more about progression, and about time, and giving you the ability to essentially these more of a pay to progress system. We've been finding works really well when you're talking about Web3 gaming and game design for Web3 items. I think the jury's still out. We haven't really seen a true game economy emerge in the Web3 space that is sustainable and functions at a high level. You know, we saw kind of the early GameFi examples with things like Axie and that were kind of built around the same type of speculation that propped up, you know, the ERC20 space with a lot of these tokens. And we saw what happened when the market turned, and I think games that are building with that mentality risk losing a lot. So you do need something like what Mega Weapon is saying, where it's not that your entire game economy depends on the fact that they're NFTs. It's that NFTs offer you a layer of amplification or something that enhances an already existing system. Go ahead, Michael. I see hands, so I'll stop talking. You guys jump in.
Sure. So I think you made a great point when you brought up depends on the game, right? And within Mega Weapon, there's one game now, but we have future game modes that we want to bring on. I think we are vehemently against pay to win in a PvP sense, where we never think anyone should have a competitive advantage because they have more money. I think that the economy should be purely two parts: paying to enter a match at a chance to win a prize pool, or you can choose to create and design your own characters as NFTs and trade them if you choose, because you simply want to, not because it gives you in-game benefits. There may be some other community-based benefits, but nothing that's going to make you have a chance to win more money or complete the game faster. In a PvE sense, I think having the option to, let's say, like, pay to skip ahead, right, in a sense where you can purchase items for combining on the open market to level up your character so that you can progress through game modes faster, but you can always just progress your way by playing the game and unlocking new items and either keeping them for yourselves or selling them on the open market. I think that's, to us, where we see like the difference in the type of game. And back to our main game, which is like the PvP mode. I'm a little bit hesitant to sort of like I know the common narrative in Web3 gaming is like this idea of ownership. You own your assets or whatever, and I'm a little bit hesitant to agree full with that, because your assets are only, even if you own them, they're only as useful as the game decides to make them, right? So like a game could decide to say, well, that asset is no longer useful for the game, right? So I think it's a little bit of a challenge to say that that's true. I would say when I think about ownership, it's more the freedom to transact, right? So it's not that you will always be able to use something in some certain way, but you're free and encouraged to trade that item on an open market for someone else that may want it. I think, and to be able to reap the benefits of that by earning those items or creating a cool character or getting a cool airdrop that you want to sell on the open market that somebody else wants. That's the freedom and sort of the ownership sense, not the usefulness in game in perpetuity, right? So that's how we sort of see the asset ownership. But yeah, I guess that's all I got on that.
That's awesome, Mega. I like the idea or how you guys approach the asset ownership in that lens. It's really interesting. I think in general for this to take off, it just takes one hero of a game to really skyrocket this stuff. If you look at Clash of Clans, right? Mobile gaming was one thing before that, and then it was a different thing after that, and then everybody jumped on it, and everybody wanted to do that, and it also like just pumped in so much money into that space where it actually took over, AAA, I think, earnings in maybe 2014 or something like that. But a game that has a meteoric rise like that and that is sustainable, um, is something that will trigger that effect, I think. And I think the technology is there for it to springboard into that, because there's, like you guys said, there's so many more systems that can happen now with the tech that we have. So I'm looking forward to one of your guys' games to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the ownership question is tricky, and I've spent a lot of time probably thinking and talking about the point that you made that to an extent at least, ownership of some of these game assets really is only as good as the continuity of the game and the usefulness in the game. And I think the reason I say to an extent is because I think that that's as far as we've gotten. I definitely don't think that that's as far as we can get. I think when and I, kind of background context, I was a lawyer for 5 years in the intellectual property space before I got into this. And so the thing that was really interesting for me about NFTs and the idea of digital ownership was the legal infrastructure that could be created around it to enable a lot of things that aren't currently possible with just the licenses that exist in the Web2 gaming space. And so, the sub-licensing and the infrastructure around licensing digital IP is a very company to company level agreement, and you don't have the same sort of flexibility with licensing digital IP that you do with physical IP, in that those rights can't be carved up as neatly because there is no tangible asset that's separate from the IP itself. And so what NFTs at their core level essentially did was created this tangible digital asset that could be owned separately from the IP itself. And with that, created the possibility for an infrastructure regarding digital ownership rights that simply just couldn't exist in the past space. And so, when I think about digital ownership, I think about it a little bit more nuanced, in the sense that it gives us the opportunity to do things with the concept of ownership that weren't possible before. And I think obviously the most in your face one, and of course the base level of all that, is the freedom of movement, the freedom to transact. This idea, in law, we call it the first sale doctrine for physical goods, and for there is no digital first sale doctrine, and so that jurisprudence was never applied to digital goods, and there's been these questions. Now there's a real analogy that you could say, okay, well, this is like physical goods because people get these things and they're not selling the IP itself or a right to use the IP itself, at least in most cases. They're selling an asset that's connected to the IP or that displays the IP. And so they can sell and advertise this asset. There's the ability to have a secondary market for it because of this infrastructure that can be built around NFTs. And now the law hasn't caught up, the regulators haven't caught up, but at least there's the promise of something to analogize to physical items and physical collectibles or whatnot in the digital space. But then I think when we think about ownership and how that evolves, we start to think about interoperability in a different sense. And I don't think that we're there yet, but one could imagine a world where, similar to my ability to buy a Superman costume and go to any Halloween party I want, wherever, right? I may be able to buy a Superman avatar from, DC Comics digital, right? And that avatar, because of a certain metadata standard, may be able to, have a 3D file associated with it that could be downloaded, and games and other platforms could automatically look to the blockchain to verify ownership. And that's the kind of authentication layer that you need. But then, through your purchase of that avatar, you could go into an ever expanding realm of places where you could use this avatar without direct licenses between those providers and DC. And I think that, it's to think that way about digital IP, it is a huge, paradigm shift in the way that lawyers, I think about digital IP. But I think that that's where we'll end up going as things become more and more digital, right? If we have AR avatars that we're wearing glasses and we're seeing people walking around with a skin over them, an avatar skin. There's gonna have to be licensing that's more expansive, and in order to know, okay, is this real? Is this authentic? Or is this just, someone created this skin and it's not authentic? We can use the blockchain and that ownership layer as an authentication layer for a lot of this stuff. So I think that I agree that the primary benefit for gaming is more on the transferability side than it is on the persistence, side. I think the persistence side is more of an opportunity for collaboration and, inter environmental interoperability, right? Where you have maybe one game company producing multiple games that can all use the same assets. Maybe in different, settings, mobile, PC, whatever it might be. And I think that there are some cool stuff there, but I agree. Right now, it's all about transferability. But I do think that the future, we're gonna be seeing this. It's almost gonna be that no one talks about it because it's back ended, but it supports the entire legal infrastructure that would need to be had in order to really evolve the digital space into what, Ready Player One imagines it to be, where you're in this whole interconnected universe with brands and all these things. Unless we want that to be all controlled by one company that has sub-licenses with all these companies, we're going to need some sort of infrastructure there legally, and I think NFTs might be able to provide that.
Awesome. Yeah. So just in the interest of time, I know Mega Weapon has to head out real quick, so I wanted to move along to their individual question here. So Matt, we got into this a little bit in the beginning here, but hoping you can go into a little more detail. So Mega Weapon very much focuses on the competitive side of gaming. So how do you see Web3 being leveraged to make games both more competitive and engaging?
Well, I mean, there's some simple answers to that. I think in terms of competitiveness, I think they just need to make games that are, when I say more competitive, I mean just honestly more competitive. There's a lot of games out there that are, styles that I may not really be interested in playing. I think it's hard to do live action fair play gaming like we're doing now, and it takes a lot of effort in terms of building the backends and server authoritative play, and that putting that effort in to make like a competitive, fast-paced game is hard, but it's worth it if you're trying to give that type of player experience. I think that being free to play and then the actual playing for money part is simple and low cost entry and really low friction is the other part of it. So just being able to jump into a match, throw in $1 per se, and play a 10-minute game to win $15 is like a good balance of competition and accessibility. And being able to produce the line we're trying to toe is bringing to the market all those things where it enables easy play, high speed action, a big element of fun, as well as being able to run on machines around the world, which is another challenge for having like what people perceive as competitive and fast-paced games as all being like, your like, high-speed machines and things like that. But if we're able to deliver that on machines everywhere, to people around the world, I think that will be able to bring more players, therefore increasing the competition. So that's a big part of it. I think socializing or adding the social element in is really key as well. So what we're trying to do next is add the whole like being able to share your leaderboard stats, your game match stats really easily with like the click of a button, share to Twitter, stuff like that, really to gamify the experience beyond just winning money so that, people playing for clout as well, people can take part in competitions and tournaments. That really increases the element of competition and fun to it when you're adding fun to the competition, because I think even more than money, people want their status. We've been playing games for a long time, and that's a big part of it. So I think to all games having people be able to just share their ranking and their experience and their level, all that kind of stuff really really adds to the level of competition and fun. And I'm gonna hop off here, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. Would love to be back on again in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. Yeah, we'll definitely have you on in the future, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
All right. See ya. So moving on to our next individual question here is going to be for Zach at Dance Fight. So you guys recently released an animated dance collection in the Sandbox, where royalties go back to the dancers who created the moves. What do you think makes Web3 such a valuable tool for empowering and rewarding artists and creators?
Yeah, very proud of this piece. You know, it was the first step into Web3. And with Sandbox, we took um, 10 pretty world-renowned street dancers that were all experts in their specific styles, and you know, worked with them to create avatars in Sandbox. It's called the Wild Ones Collection, and they got a hand in designing whatever they wanted that personified themselves, which was really cool. And then also, you know, recording their actual dance moves. You know, depending on what rarity you get more or less of that, but and then sticking them right onto the avatar, and you know, distributing these. And we were able to divvy out 56K in royalties to these 10 dancers. So that in itself is amazing. You know, the street dance culture has been around for many decades, and quite honestly, as artists, dancers quite often get the shaft. You know, they're very low paying jobs, and they're just the masses of them don't have the opportunities to really um, monetize. Just with the nature of what it is, and I always compare it to skate culture, which is cool, and you know, skate culture took off because it has products, it has skateboards, it has clothes, it has shoes. Whereas dancing, I mean, it's your moves, it's just the floor and gravity. That's really the only elements you need. But now, you know, with the age that we're in, and with the technology to tokenize things like animations, like you can take somebody's um, movement that their signature movement of mind, and put it right into a digital asset that can be moved around the different aspects of the metaverse. So yeah, I think that'll just get stronger. As you said earlier, it'd be cool to be able to kill someone and, you know, do a little signature dance move. That's definitely the start of it. But the idea is to be able to take these mo-capped signature dances, tie them and tokenize them to the actual dancers, have owners of those, and then just have a new way of distribution for what was before just a performance. And at Dance Fight, we call this vinyl. The vinyl moment for dancers, where, and we mean by that is, you know, in 1948, um, uh, musicians were able to put their craft and their art onto records, onto vinyl, and that just turned into an entirely new industry, and it was game changing. You know, it was a complete shift for those artists, and then the birth of a new kind of industry. So the idea here is, you know, like music going vinyl, like these dance animation NFTs will allow dancers to connect with their audience in a different way, and more importantly, have a different and new distribution platform.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love that you guys are, you know, basically creating a whole new economy and industry, you know, for dancers who didn't have that opportunity before. And yeah, I think Web3 is such a great way of, you know, really making that happen. And incredible that you guys were able to, you know, help these 10 dancers, you know, make so much money off this, off the royalties as well. And hopefully they continue to make those royalties as those assets trade in the future too. Um, so moving on to Nick here. So Nick, I was wondering if you could tell everyone a little bit about the Legion's 2029 mainnet launch on Polygon and how everything's going so far.
Yeah, it's been a fun week. You know, we released the Legions 2029, I guess the alpha version on Polygon mainnet on Tuesday of last week, so it's been about a week. that we've been live. We've seen some really good responses. I think we're still working through a couple of the kinks in terms of the, getting people into the game. I know, we're definitely appreciating the amount of people that have come in and tried to load it, but that also has meant, some behind the scenes tech support. And so it's super helpful for us because we're able to see where did someone have an issue? Okay, let's fix that issue so that when we do start pushing out marketing materials and really starting to get people into the game, we're not getting people, who are having the same issues. And that's important because we know that, for every couple people that come into the servers and come into the Discord and ask for help to get through the issues, there's many, many more who may not be and who are just like, all right, I'll try this again later, or maybe never try again. So this first release has been very informative to us in terms of getting through those things and finding out where the pain points are with a larger group of people coming in. I think that we're definitely getting really good feedback on the gameplay. We are obviously fully aware that the game is still in a developmental stage and there's still limited things that you can do, but I think what we really want to push forward is that this is the bones of the game and this is the kind of the blocks that we're going to build upon. And we're already working on major changes and improvements to some of the modes that we think are really going to make the game more competitive for essentially the next release phase. But we, leaning into some of the competitive nature of the speed run. But the launch itself, I think, if you haven't gotten to play the game, I would definitely just recommend trying it out. Right now, there is a little bit of, accessibility limitations in the sense that you do need a PC and you do need a PC that can play, fairly decent games. So a decently spec'd PC, nothing too crazy. If you've got a standalone, GPU or, something that's not integrated, we've been min specking around like a 1070, 1080 Ti can usually handle the lowest version of the game. But then there's been some things that we're still working on from an optimization standpoint. But if you have a PC, the game is totally free to download. You don't even need a blockchain wallet to play the game. You can get started just by creating an account. So, I definitely encourage people to play the game. It's the type of game that you really don't need to spend a ton of time in to kind of get the core mechanics. We wanted to have like a very arcadey feeling game where the progression was very arcade-like, rather than a game where, you have to play through an intro story just to get into the action, which I love games like that, but that's just not, what we're building. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend people try it out. We do have some pretty cool stuff that I think is unique to the game. Our avatar creator is something we spent a lot of time on. It's something that you can get in there, and when you play the game, even if you don't have one of our avatars, the Legionnaires or the 8-Mo Army collection, which do give you perks within the game. But if you don't have any avatars, you don't want to pay anything, you can come into the game, you can create your own custom avatar. So right there, that's pretty cool because, people like PFPs, they want to personalize those PFPs. You can do a whole bunch of different things with these avatars. They've got our mask on them, so that it's like that whole idea of anonymity, but you can change the colors, the textures, the skins, the hairstyles, all different things. You create that avatar and you play for about an hour. You get to level 5, sometimes less if you've already played games like ours. And you can mint that avatar, and you could do that from the game. There's a button that says mint once you get to level 5, and once you mint that avatar, it's going to be part of our custom biosynth avatar collection on Polygon, and so you'll have access to the PFP if you want to use that, or you'll be able to see that and have that as an NFT, and then all of the progress is stored in that avatar's metadata. So as you level up, that avatar is actually the NFT is going to reflect a higher level on that avatar, which is going to help you obviously as you progress through the game. And then once you complete the campaign, you're able to access our speedrun mode. And in our speedrun mode, we have a tournament going on, and I think we've got the information as part of the thread that I pinned to the top. But we've got thousands of dollars in prizes from our different partners and from Satoshiverse. So if you're looking for a free game that you can go into and possibly win something, including a lot of our, we have kind of a vault of our NFTs, of our avatar collections, which kind of do have these recurring benefits within our ecosystem. Anyone in the top 10 on the leaderboard is going to get one of those, core avatars. And I think it's like the top 15 or 20 is going to get one of the 8 Army avatars. All the details are there, so check it out. But then we also have some, cool items that you can earn. And then our partners, some of the partners that are contributing in the launch, contributed prizes. So really, really definitely a cool, no risk way of trying out a game that we've spent. We have about a 25-person team that's worked on this game, and it's taken us about 2 years full time building it. So we're really excited to have people keep coming into the game and giving us feedback. Of course, it's still a bit too early for us to really be doing a big paid marketing push. We're not at a point where we feel comfortable that if this blew up to 10,000, 50,000 daily active users, that the servers could support it. So we are scaling it a bit slowly and making it more and more stable as we go, hence kind of the alpha name. So if you are someone who likes to play games in development and contribute to being part of their development and be part of a great community, I would definitely encourage you to join. Even if you don't download the game, jump into the Discord. I like to think everybody's pretty friendly and pretty good vibes. Everybody that's one of the things that kind of keeps me motivated every day, is going in there and seeing all the positive vibes. So I think we've got some cool stuff coming out with the community. We're going to be doing some cool initiatives to get people's art in the games, to have people help us with the design of items and things for the game, naming things. So a bunch of cool community initiatives coming up. I'm probably leaking a bit too much alpha. I'll get scolded by Danny after this, but yeah, lots of cool stuff's coming. But the thing I would say is just get in there and play. If you've got a PC, if you like Web3 gaming, I think we really have a good example of, it's not finished, but a core set of what blockchain gaming could look like in terms of how to integrate blockchain transactions inside of inside of a Unreal Engine-based game, a client desktop-based game, how to do these things efficiently. We have a partnership with Hyperplay, and the game can be downloaded from the Hyperplay launcher as one of the alternatives. And if you do that, the game is fully blockchain enabled. So there's not a ton of games that I've seen personally that have full Web3 integration into a desktop-based game. And so we're definitely proud of that. That took us a long time to get shored away, and I know we're continuing to improve it. It also has its little idiosyncrasies, but we're proud, and we just want people to play the game and tell us what they think, so that we can continue improving it as we go, and just excited for what the future.
Awesome, Nick. Well, thank you for the update. I'm sure the community very much appreciates it. And thank you. Maybe not thank you for the alpha, but we'll see. We'll see what Danny says later. So getting into another question for the group here, and maybe Zach, you can start us out on this one. So why is true digital ownership an important step forward for the gaming industry as a whole?
As a whole, for the industry, in terms of everybody involved, and by that I mean workers and jobs. I mean, I think we've all seen what's going on with especially the big companies. There's like tons of layoffs and all this. Pretty sad for me and my people. But I really hope that doing the right things with digital ownership, with the games like your guys have, and all this talk about the freedom of transferring assets. I hope that brings in new money. I hope it brings in a better sustainable way to monetize, because at the end of the day, to make a great game, you actually need the capital, you need the funding, and to have it blocked off just certain companies or wherever it may be. I would like the freedom for everybody to have access to that stuff, so that the talent can come along and build just great games. I really like what you guys are doing there, and primarily coming from Web3, I think that's a success story in this case. But yeah, I think the way that AAA studios, especially, are moving things around, it's not working. Like they're putting so much money into marketing, as they do, and into production, and then these huge games that everyone's excited for seem to be not doing that well sometimes. Right? I'm not talking about all of them, but so I think that with a new economy, we can have a new layer of funding, and my hope is that it brings maybe a different form of studio, or development cycle, or something. I think it actually has. I love this building out in the open, and I hope that becomes more normalized, especially with my brothers and sisters um, in the traditional game space.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more there. And for those who don't know, basically all of our funding initially came from either, in the early days, it was the founders, and then it was our community. So this wouldn't have been possible for us to get as far as we did without a major community support. And I also think that that is a big part of why we develop the way we develop. And it's tough because it seems like sometimes we're pulling down our pants a little bit and letting the world see, because it's not ready and it's not done and it's not perfect and there's not a big ad spend behind it. But the other side of that is that we kind of feel like we have a responsibility to the community to keep them in the loop, to keep them, because they're as much a part of this as we are. And while we're the ones kind of deciding what goes where and kind of putting things in place, it really is the community that makes this possible. And so right now, I see a ton of people in this space who are here every single week, who enjoy being here, who listen, who contribute in the Discord. And the amount of difference that makes for us as a project, given the way that we are building, given the way that we are funded, and kind of our aspirations to continue doing this, is key. Because without the community, there's really not a lot of other layers. We don't have some major publisher right now that's saying, okay, we're gonna do all these different things to push this thing out the door. This is truly, being community driven, community funded, community built, in the sense that that is the path that we've taken to get this far. And I think that, of course, as this scales, as there's interest, we want to take it to the next level. But getting the community's input at these early stages is just kind of part of the DNA of the project. And I think that whether it's blockchain that enabled it, right, as a funding vehicle, or whether it's just kind of the spirit of the Web3 community and how Web3 has kind of embraced new IPs, I think it's made a lot of things possible that weren't before. As you said, it's hard to get a game concept off the ground, and then this allowed us to do it. I think I may have jumped the gun before just on the question itself, which is, why is true digital ownership an important step forward for gaming? I think it's what I was saying before. I actually think the funding angle is super important. And I don't know if that is more related to Web3 or if that is, just generally about Web3 communities. But I think when we talk about ownership and what it means, that's where it takes the form of a lot of different things. Ownership could mean that I own an avatar from this collection, and therefore I have an incentive to see this succeed for a number of reasons, right? And I think we have a bit of that. And so there's an ownership layer there, and that ownership can be transferred, right? Someone else could decide, I don't just want to play this game. I want to be part of its success. I want to do things because I have these avatars. Ownership could mean, I get game items and I make a living out of buying and selling maybe. I know even more than the grinders and the farmers, there's people who flip in-game items and make livings that way. So, ownership could be the facilitation of those sort of marketplaces and doing that all around the world. You start to look at Ethereum flipping became very exclusive because of the gas fees. You really couldn't flip on really small margins. But I remember, when I was playing Diablo 2, and even when I first got into Decentraland, one of the fun things to do was to buy and sell items, wearables, different things. And I wasn't doing it to make a living, but over time you start to accumulate better and better stuff, and all of a sudden you've got an account that's really cool, full of really cool stuff. I think now that you have blockchains like Polygon and Immutable and Avalanche and Solana, like all these layer twos that are much more efficient, you have those economies that can create where you don't even need to play the game. The game is, being part of the market, gathering items that people need and reselling them. I remember RuneScape, the marketplaces, where that was how people played the game. They didn't even go and play the game. They would just get items and then go to the market and sell it to people and try to make a markup, and that was fun. And so I think I can't wait to see the meta games that kind of emerge within Web3 gaming because of these open economies. And I think that's going to be a really cool thing that comes from digital ownership. But for me, digital ownership is really about a legal infrastructure for digital assets that is going to have rights embedded into it by default. And I think that I don't think we're there yet. I think a lot of people assume we're there, right? I think people think, oh, I own this NFT, therefore X, Y, and Z. But the reality is that very little of that is actually defined in any jurisdiction. And there's definitely not any agreement between jurisdictions on how all of that works, right? So we're going to need to see that infrastructure developed over the course of the next few years. But I truly believe that NFTs provide that infrastructure, or may provide that infrastructure for digital ownership to actually mean something legally, right? More than just, okay, you play a game, so you have a license to display that item within that game, right? That's because that's the status quo in just about every game. It's the status quo in our game if you don't have items as NFTs, because the regulations essentially require that, right? And the rights are very limited that you can offer to someone. The idea with NFTs is that you can now expand beyond those rights. And we're really excited about that. We think that's the future of digital asset ownership generally, for gaming and otherwise. And we just, whether it's the dance moves, which I still think is such an awesome concept. And I think the only battle you're going to have to fight there is with AI and keeping things human, right? Because the more we see, it's tough, the role that AI is playing. I love it, but also I think about use cases like the dancing, and I'm like, I want to know that this is coming from a real human. Maybe blockchain allows that, right? Maybe that's the digital signature that lets you know, okay, this is actually pretty cool because this came from this dancer who was on So You Think You Can Dance, and I was rooting for that person, and now whatever they're doing these dance moves, and it's backed by the blockchain and authenticated by the blockchain. So it may not even be, I want to support them as an artist, but I actually like their thing, and I don't want some AI generated dance move from, I want something that's unique, or I know that dance move, that emote, that who knows, maybe I use it in Fortnite, right? And I'm a big Fortnite player, I'm a star player, right? Maybe I contract one of these dancers to make a one-of-one dance move for me, and only I can use that dance move. And good luck, with some of these gamers actually doing it themselves, but their avatar can do it because they were able to work, with. So I think you guys got so much potential in that respect, and I like how kind of Web3 could potentially, drive all that.
Thank you for that. Actually, very good point to digital ownership and the industry. and things that have happened. One of the big reasons, actually, I liked Dance Fight and why I joined them just because of their mission was I actually didn't like what happened with Fortnite. I don't know if you guys know the backstory of it, but the dances and the emotes are such a huge part of the monetization of that game. And speaking as a street dancer, they took those moves. Like they just watched people, they animated them. Some of those were signature moves that kids made up, and they went to court with it. And the dancers lost because you could not. I think what happened. Maybe you can correct me if as a lawyer, but it was anything less than 4 counts of a move could not be considered as something you could claim. So a lot of these dances, and social dances, whatever, are 2 steps, 3 steps, and just because of that technicality, they lost. And then, I don't want to shit on Epic or anything like that. I think they make great games, but that in particular, really, they took famous dances from these were kids, a lot of them. They made a lot of money. They did not give shout outs to any of them, and legally, the dancers lost. So, Dance Fight with digital ownership will change that with exactly what you said, like having this digital signature and even being able to create one of ones, like you'll be able to go to the source of what those things are. Because, as a dancer, I can say when you come up with a style or a move or something, it's a beautiful thing. Like some of that stuff just happens in the moment, out of your mind, through your body to the music. And there's no better feeling. I can tell you that. Some people say it's like surfing, something bigger than you is moving you. But to steal that, I think, is such an ugly thing. So, with true digital ownership, I think we can repair that thing. So, yeah, that's a gross thing. And then Dance Fight for me was such a beacon of light in terms of something like that never happening again.
Well, it's also interesting. I mean, from the you got my mind going on the legal stuff, but it's interesting because there are rights that don't exist until you reduce something to a medium, right? To something more tangible. And I think one of the interesting, totally unrelated examples of this was that, Marilyn Monroe very famously didn't have any rights of publicity after her death because of some New York laws that didn't grant those rights. But there was an avatar made of Marilyn Monroe, and then that avatar was able to be copyrighted and exclusively copyrighted and totally, separate from Marilyn Monroe. And that there was a whole host of digital rights that were protected because her being essentially was reduced to a digital being of an avatar. And so I tend to wonder if, like an artist who may have an idea, who then takes that idea and reduces it to a medium of expression, right? Puts it on paper and then can get copyright protection. If doing what you guys are doing and setting up an infrastructure for someone to hop in a mocap suit, actually record those dance movements, will allow those dance movements to then be registered and copyrightable to prevent someone like Epic Games from coming in and saying, hey, sure, we saw this in a video. Like, you can't prevent us from seeing it in a video and then, doing certain things, right? Unless you've reduced it to a medium. And I'm sure there's videos and there's probably protection already in that sense, like you were saying, for a number of moves. But it's interesting to think about, again, how ownership might work there in the protective respect, right? Actually protecting the IP by saying, hey, this isn't just a dance move anymore. This is a product, right? And it should have all the protections that go with the product, because this is no longer just something I created for a dance. This is a part of my livelihood, and this is how I earn money by reducing this to a product and using it in games and in avatars and metaverses and whatnot. So I actually think that's kind of where I think you start peeling back the layer of the onion of where this could go because of that infrastructure. And it's totally, I think it's totally imaginable to see those sorts of paradigm shifting cases happen in the next 10 years that really changes the way we think about a lot of these things.
Awesome. This has been such a fun discussion, but we are over the hour here, so I want to make sure that we announce the winner of our giveaway here. So the winner this week of an 8Mo Army Legendary NFT trading card is Kagito, or Kagito _ NFT. Congratulations, Kagito. Please send a DM to the Satoshiverse account, and we'll make sure to get you your prize. Nick, I'll pass it back to you to close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Spencer. It's been a great discussion. I know all these discussions fly by. I really appreciate you joining, Zach. It's been good to have you, and I can't wait to see personally what you guys do and how what you guys are building evolves, because I think it has a ton of potential. And yeah, I can't wait to keep collaborating with everyone. And you can get in right now and mint a dance fight avatar. So if you're in the dance fight community, check out the avatar creator as well, because we've got the dance fight emblem, the hero emblem, that can be attached to your custom created avatar, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do cooler things with that as well. So again, thanks so much for joining. Thanks to everybody who watched the Spaces live, and we'll be back next week at the same time with another edition. So please join us, and if you haven't checked out the speakers, please go give them a follow. Check out all that they are building, and yeah, check out the game. That's how I'll close it off. Thank you, everybody, and we will talk to you next week.